It's Saturday, May 24th of 2025. I'm Jay Essen. Today is time for The Little Match Girl Approaches the Golden Firmament. In this game, the Little Match Girl attempts to avert a disaster. This one is in real time. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge because, as indicated, we have a timer at the top of the screen, and as I play, it's going to be, there's a time limit. Things are happening rapidly. There's going to be a lot of things going on, and so I debated how to approach this. I considered just playing through it all and then going back and reading everything from the beginning. I don't think that would actually be as much fun. I do think that even with reading aloud, this is going to be something I can get through in time, even if we just allow for the fact that I'm not going to be able to respond to things as quickly as I could because I'm allowing things to play out in real time. It's fine. I'll deal with it. So we have that timer, and the text at the top says, "As Socrates approached his death, one of his pupils asked him, 'Master, after we've washed you and put on your shroud, where ought we to bury you?' Socrates answered, 'If you can find me, well, bury me wherever it suits you, but I can't imagine how you'll find me after I'm dead. In all my life, I never found myself.'" So says Attar of Nishapur. There is additionally some text that I am going to feed into Google Translate. Let's go to translate.google.com. And this is attributable to Li Yun. It says, "What are the four spirits? The unicorn, the phoenix, the tortoise, and the dragon are called the four spirits." The Little Match Girl Approaches the Golden Firmament, a real-time fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen. Release 1, serial number 250401. Inform 7, version 10.1.2, Vorpal version 4.0.1. Hello, my name is Hans Christian Andersen. Perhaps you are familiar with the Little Match Girl, a character I came up with out of my own head, and with her many adventures. So many adventures, and what convoluted adventures they are. Before you enter the start command, you really ought to take a moment to look at Ebenezabeth. The Little Match Girl's name is Ebenezabeth, and note her various possessions and abilities. So we will examine Ebenezabeth. As of 1849, Ebenezabeth Scrooge is 20 years old. She is a strong young woman with flaxen curls and hard eyes, a woman who rarely smiles, a woman whose conscience forbids her any rest. As her powers and reputation grow, she finds her heroism increasingly in demand. Her primary ability is this: whenever she looks at fire, she travels through space and time. There's no apparent regularity to her destinations, but she trusts fire to take her where she needs to be. Ebenezabeth carries a revolver, among other tools you will find in her inventory, and although she finds violence as distasteful as you or I do, she often finds it necessary to shoot things. Lately, she has developed a wholly benign method of shooting things. If she first focuses her mind, she can cause her revolver to fire a blast of purifying flame, capable of melting away the insidious shards of the Mirror of Belial. She can also transform into a little mouse. We should take inventory. You are carrying a tiger's eye pendant being worn, the skeletonic key, a scanning lens being worn, a velvet capelet being worn, and your revolver. We examine the pendant. This simple pendant bears a simple magic. Ebenezabeth can squeeze it to see in the dark. We examine the key. This ancient key is capable of locking or unlocking anything that can be locked or unlocked. A worrisome power, perhaps, but if there is anyone we can trust with this power, it is Ebenezabeth Scrooge. We examine the scanning lens. A scanning lens of space pirate design worn over one eye. With it, Ebenezabeth can scan almost anything to learn more about it. This scanning lens has a new feature. It has learned how to change its size so that Ebenezabeth can continue using it while in mouse form. The lens has also been programmed with the Ansible frequency used by Prince Blandford and his cronies, which is sure to come in handy. I don't think we can scan anything yet. The scanner will start working when the story begins. It says things like runic text translated or analyzing enemy defense system. Excuse me. I will stop typing in OBS and I will start typing in the game again. Examine capelet. Although it looks rather more stylish than functional, the capelet's magic inures the wearer to the most bitter cold. And we examine the revolver. Ebenezabeth's revolver was made especially for her by Samuel Colt, which makes it a very sentimental item despite its unpleasant function, i.e., to shoot things. It was also blessed by the Pope, so that the bullets it fires are capable of instantly destroying vampires and other unholy monsters. On the other hand, if Ebenezabeth focuses first, then her revolver will instead fire a blast of purifying flame, which can melt shards of the Mirror of Belial without harming their unlucky hosts. We try to transform. You close your eyes. Molecules coil and uncoil, tensing, releasing, and then you're a little mouse. We examine her. At the moment, Ebenezabeth is a little mouse with flaxen fur. This form affords her all the abilities you would associate with any small rodent. She can scurry, she can chew, she can slip through small holes. She has also learned from an alligator friend how to rage, or death roll, a technique that allows her to explode with all the fury a little mouse can muster. She can transform to resume her human form whenever she likes. Go ahead and transform once more to revert that. You can close your eyes, and when you open them, you're a young lady again. We type about. Thank you for your interest in The Little Match Girl Approaches the Golden Firmament. This story is supposed to be fast-paced and exciting. I hope you can finish it without taking breaks, but if you have to, there is a pause command. Development of The Little Match Girl Approaches the Golden Firmament was supported by Deep Breath, Emily Short, Sammy El Barawi, Janice M. Eisen, Q Fever, Matt Schneider, Sarah, Ivan R., Russ Wang, Jenny Paladna, Janelle Marie, Grant Veeder, Michael Ziegler, Jason Love, Sarah W., Greg Frost, Doug Orleans, Carl Ove Hoofdhammer, Nils Fagerberg, Jessica Seidel, Rich Chang, Carolyn Van Esseltine, Jacques Frichet, Matthew Zimmerman, Zachary Hodgins, Derek Sotak, Tobias Langhoff, Yerrick, Carl Muckenhaupt, Alan Tan, Robin Johnson, Robert Palutzian, Jordan Ish, Mark, Jeremy Wright, Benjamin Slade, Kenneth Hahn, Dominia, Stephen N., Brett W., Robert Eggleston, Josh Lawrence, Zachary Dillon, Jason Memel, Evan Hahn, Ori Eftalion, and bringing up the rear, Patreon user I'm Not Here. Phew. To join these kind folks in supporting my work, check out patreon.com/rcveeder. This game was tested by Sarah Wilson and Jason Love and Tobias V. Langhoff and Stephen N. We're going to go ahead and hit start in a moment. Before we do, I just want to confirm my own history with this game. I have played through it in its entirety once, and I've played a couple times to experiment with the real-time features, just to confirm that there is, in fact, a game over if you allow time to run out. Sure enough, there is a bad end if you do not complete your objectives before the timer runs out, so we're going to try and avoid that. But that being said, I am going to be reading as quickly as I can. I am not going to be reading any voices. I'm just going to go through matter of fact so that we can try and experience this in its entirety and not lose out on anything. It's a shame because there are some very colorful characters that we will be overhearing who would probably be well suited to having distinct voices. But we're just going to have to deal with the fact that a single playthrough of this game is a little hectic, and it is very beneficial to go back through the text after you finish and just revisit it. That's one great reason why you should just play this yourself. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and play through as best I can, and we shall start. Are you sure you're ready? I hope you can play this one in a single sitting without distractions. Yes. All right then, please press any key to continue. The story you are about to play is true. HHS at gear 4419, the docking bay force field flickers as the quartal star slips inside. 30 minutes on the dot, the scanning lens tells you. The ship slows to a stop, nestling itself between rows of combat drones. Blandford needs half an hour of thrust to achieve a collision trajectory, so be faster than that. You jump out of the pilot's seat as the airlock pressurizes. Oh, and I'm tuned into their Ansible frequency if you want to eavesdrop. Sure, you mutter. The airlock hisses open and you leap outside. Docking Bay 1. Your ship is a bit conspicuous among the fighter drones. Just hope nobody comes around to notice. On the far side of the force field are the stars, spinning upsettingly quickly. The exit is starboard. All you have to do is to get to the reactor, find the simmer, and bring it back here. Fast. A message appears in the scanning lens. Ad Chimesa says, intruder alert. Blandford says, what? Where? Ad Chimesa says, albedo deck, I think. Rev Della says, it's Scrooge. I told you she wouldn't give up. Blandford says, kill her. Alex Safar, PhD, says, how do you know it's Scrooge? Della says, who else would it be? Blandford says, kill her right now. Ad Chimesa says, K, working on it. We can go starboard. Docking bay access. There are 2 docking bays to port where your ship is and starboard. The rest of the ship is forward. A wall monitor shows the position of the gear relative to the golden firmament. Examine the monitor. The gear, here a purple dot, has achieved a messy orbit around the golden firmament, a yellow circle. It needs to apply a tremendous amount of acceleration to make contact, so that's what it's doing now. We go starboard again. Docking bay. Hundreds more fighter drones stand here, waiting for activation. Your ship is parked in the other docking bay. The way out is port. Back to docking bay access. Let's go forward to Albedo Junction. A creased poster hangs on the wall near a map terminal. White tape marks paths leading port, starboard, and aft to the docking bays. Stairs leading deeper into the ship are consigned to an inconvenient corner. Examine that poster. Prince Blandford wears an ancient military uniform, medals covering his chest, thrusting his chin defiantly toward the sun. From the wear on the corners, you guess this poster has been hung up over and over again in various battleships. Let's go to the stairs. Down? Yeah, down. Stairway. A faint red light pulses fitfully. Your steps feel heavier and heavier with each step you descend, until you reach one marked with striped tape. The nearby sign reads, Relativistic Exclusion Zone. Keep out. We examine the tape. There's no obvious difference between the stairs on this side of the tape and the stairs on the other side. We go down further. The scanning lens whirs at you. We really don't want to go down there, it says. Let's find a less dangerous way, okay? Please? So we'll go back up. Scan the poster. You scan the creased poster and the scanning lens reports, this is not a realistic rendering. If Blandford's shoulders were really that broad, he would have ridiculous back problems. Let's go port. To Albedo Port Station. The port door says, Ouroboros access to Citrinitas deck. The corridor continues to starboard. A document is opened on a nearby console. We examine the document. The message reads, My child, I am greatly humbled by your worshipful missive. Be sure, my child, that the path of asceticism on which I travel is not to be trod by the weak of spirit. To attain my mastery of the mucomantic art, I underwent such self-mortification as would something your something were you not fully prepared, my child. After Prince Blandford's righteous campaign succeeds, and I make my return to the material plane, you and I will schedule a private seminar. Something about paying in advance. Your mentor, Archdervish Chimeus, save as draft. We scan the document. The scanning lens has this to say about the monitor. I know what a mucomancer is, but I've never seen mucomantic before. Well, I guess that's what Chimeus is a mucomancer. Open port door. Once you step close enough to the Ouroboros, the mechanism yanks you violently forward until you're inside. The tiny car runs along its gossamer rail, arcing from one deck to the next. Adchimeus says, she just got in the Ouroboros. Blandford says, jettison the Ouroboros. Far below, you think you can see the tiny black hole at the center of the ship. Chimeus says, I don't know how to do that. Alex Afar, PhD, says, I have an idea. I'll meet her on the Citrinitas deck. The car barely slows down as it approaches the next station. It just lurches to a halt and spits you out. Citrinitas starboard station. The starboard door says Ouroboros access to Albedo deck. The corridor continues to port. A laminated notice is taped to the wall. We examine the notice. There's a lot of text here. Pastor Della Gardella's do's, don'ts, and tries. For not getting your head bit off, don't say you're sorry, ever. You're admitting weakness. Don't say please. Act like an adult. Never thank anybody for anything. This bothers me so much. If I hear a single thank you, I will walk all the way across the ship to bite your head off. Do not mess with my stuff. Try not to stare at my chest when we're talking. I know it's hard. If I catch you ogling, just apologize and move on. Do stare at my butt when I walk away, you little pervert, winky face. Okay. Well, scan notice. You scan the limited notice. I happen to have Della Gardella's file here, and I can say that there's a reason people stare at her chest. She is not an easy person to make eye contact with. Well, Alex Afar PhD is on their way here, so let's go back starboard. This time you're ready. You relax, you take a step, and the Ouroboros draws you inside. You lean over for a better look. You can't quite see the black hole, but there's a spot where the far side of the ship looks weirdly lensed. That must be it. Della says, "What's she doing?" Crimea says, "She's back in the Ouroboros." Crimea says, "Did she change her mind?" Alexafar says, You brace yourself as the car approaches the albedo deck. The port door says, "Ouroboros access to Citronita's deck." The corridor continues to starboard. We're going to go starboard now to Albedo Junction, and starboard once more, to Albedo Starboard Station. The starboard door says Ouroboros access to Negredo deck. Notes are scribbled on a nearby whiteboard. Examine whiteboard. How does a Sabbatio drive work? What does it convert into energy? Beneficence. Physical quality? Wisdom? Not a physical quality. Purity. Can this see this as a state of low entropy? Extract energy by increasing entropy? Does any of this make sense? My cat doesn't seem to think so. He wants me to get up and do a treat, but that's not going to happen right now. Let's scan whiteboard. Whoa, a leather whiteboard. Fancy. We go starboard again. You step confidently into the Ouroboros. Camilla says, "Okay, she's back in the Ouroboros again, heading to Negredo deck." Blanford says, "What is this girl's problem?" Alexafar says, "Perfect. I'll be there waiting for her." Negredo Port Station. The port forward door says Ouroboros access to Albedo deck. The corridor continues to starboard. Prince Blandford smirks at you from a wall-length display screen. Examine Blandford. This display is some sort of advertisement for Prince Blandford's power armor. Diamond hard, yet flexible. Energy impervious, yet breathable. A mask covers most of his face, but his yellow eyes suggest a smug, "See anything you like?" grin. I hit pause because my cat is really eager for me to service him in some manner, so I will ensure that he has a treat, and I will return momentarily. All right, where were we? We had paused. 3 cats have received 3 treats. With luck, that should be the extent of their demands today. We'll see, though. I am going to unpause now. Scan Blandford. Oh, nice. I can analyze his armor for weaknesses. Analyzing. Nope, this is just a bunch of marketing nonsense. Okay, well, in that case, let's go ahead and go starboard again. Corridor. A cramped hallway runs from port to starboard. Professor Alcifar's hulking frame blocks the passage. You raise your revolver. Please, Professor. Quiet, he snaps, lifting his own weapon, the size of a cannon. It's already over. The huge gun roars and flames engulf the corridor, filling your vision. Custer State Park, 1988, road. The highway runs east and west between scattered aspens and birches. Far to the west, a plume of smoke rises over the trees. The heat is obscene. Relativity, the scanning lens grumbles. Recalculating. Blandford, what happened? Alexafar, PhD, says, I set the Negredo corridor on fire. Della says, so she's gone? Adkymia says, I'm getting a metatime trace on her. She is in 20th century. Blandford says, excellent, well done, Professor. Camilla says, South Dakota. Della says, yes, see, this is proof that Providence favors our efforts. Blandford says, have fun chomping on a woolly mammoth burger, Scrooge. Chimea says, is there mammoths in the 20th century? Elixifar says, Pastor Gardella, I thought that Providence was a metonym for God. Genuine question? Della says, no. Providence is the invisible hand of fate that makes sure people get what they deserve. God is an old man with a long white beard. Chimea says, you might be thinking of mastodons. Alexifar says, ah. Della says, who will be dead in about half an hour? Blandford says, if God concedes our military superiority, I'm willing to make him a prisoner. Alexifar says, that would be quite the coup should circumstances permit. Blandford says, I predict a strong response from the forces of heaven as soon as we transcend the golden firmament. Chimea says, oh, buffaloes! Blandford says, but within minutes, the angelic armies will be decimated and the survivors will be forced to surrender. Della says, heart. Chimea says, I looked it up. Blandford says, then the throne of God will be mine. Alexifar says, Archdervis Chimeas, what are you talking about? Genuine question? Chimea says, the burgers Scrooge is chomping on. Alexifar says, ah. Blandford says, and the 3 of you will sit at my right hand. Alexifar says, Prince Blandford, I'm glad we're finally getting these details ironed out. Gentle sarcasm. Della says, Professor Alexifar, shut up. Well, now we're in the Americas. The highway runs east and west between scattered aspens and birches. Far to the west, a plume of smoke rises over the trees. The heat is obscene. Well, I think we need to go west since that's where fire is. Roadblock. A row of plastic barriers crosses the road, patrolled by a sweaty park ranger. The smoke is still some distance to the west. The park's closed, the ranger says once he notices you. We got a bad fire. You better turn around. And talk to the ranger. Could you please escort me to the fire, you ask? I only need to look at it for a moment. The ranger squints. He puts a hand on his walkie-talkie. What in the wonderful world of Disney are you talking about? Never mind. Examine the ranger. The uniform is supposed to grant an air of gravitas, but even mirrored sunglasses can't make this fellow look tough. He can't disguise how much he just wants to go home. Scan the ranger. I already know I hate this guy, but I guess we're busy, so we'll leave him alone. Well, let's just go ahead and transform. You take a deep breath, you feel very ticklish for a second, and then you've changed. The ranger goes on pacing, oblivious. Now we're going to go west to the parking lot. Personnel are hurrying back and forth across the road, carrying equipment and barking orders. Someone reacts to the appearance of a flaxen-furred mouse with mild surprise for half a second, then marches away. You can see the plume of smoke a little better from here. It's rising from somewhere to the southwest. We examine the plume. Something is burning southwest from here. Scan the plume. Spectral analysis indicates that the victims of the fire are primarily ponderosa pines. I don't know a better word for it. Trees that get burned. We go southwest to Gully. A number of rodents, insects, reptiles, and small birds have congregated in the dry creek bed. The fire is somewhere southwest from here. Wait, we have to start over, a voice grouses. Someone got here late. Your tone isn't very helpful. The chair will be happy to begin the proceedings again. The prairie dog pauses significantly before announcing, this committee is convened to explore options for responding to the recent forest fire. Prairie dog. Talk to prairie dog. The prairie dog shushes you, waving you away. And to determine a course of action, the hummingbird adds, I'm sorry I have to say it again, but no. The agenda only provides for suggestions, discussions of suggestions, and straw polls to gauge the popularity of suggestions. If I try to go southwest, the red-bellied snake darts in front of you. This meeting isn't over yet, the prairie dog says. Please respect the rules of order and wait until we've adjourned. I move to add a final decision to the agenda, cries the hummingbird. Well, can we simply transform again? The problem with that idea is the rangers would see you right away, and then they would drag you as far away from the fire as possible. And I'm very sorry that I have to say this again, but I'm afraid it's too late to amend the agenda. If there are no more interruptions, the floor is now open for suggestions. No one wants to speak first, so you speak first. You should be running away from the fire right now. Let's go ahead and shout. Before another animal can speak, you scream at the top of your tiny lungs, flailing and writhing across the creek bed, kicking up dust and twigs. Several animals shake their heads, disappointed. Others pretend not to notice. But the prairie dog steps forward and puts an end to your fit with a scratchy paw on your chest. If you can't be civil, he says, then I'm afraid I have to dismiss you. And he drags you out of the creek bed. Field. Tall grass surrounds you, but you can see now. The smoke is rising from behind the trees to the south. As soon as the prairie dog is gone, you hear a whine at your ear. Thanks 100, lady. I was trying to get out of there too, but I wasn't having any luck until you whipped up a distraction. Now you see her, a tiny mosquito. Happy to help, you tell her. Examine the mosquito. There's very little to distinguish her from other mosquitoes. There's very little of her to begin with. Is it all right if I tag along? Asks the mosquito. If you can resist biting me, you tell her. Oh, no problem. Try scanning the mosquito. Mosquito, bug, family Culicidae. Order Diptera, threat level nil, mood sanguine. So, you got a name? The mosquito asks. Ebenezabeth, what's yours? Wow, that's a good one. Mosquitoes don't get names. Oh, I'm sorry. She shrugs, you think. No big deal. I know it's different from mice. Well, let's go ahead and go south to the forest. The smoke overhead is thick, but you can see flames licking at the underbrush. Better hurry. Examine the flames. The flames know your business is urgent and carry you away at once. Oh, great, says the scanning lens. Now I gotta recalibrate the thing again. HHS at gear 4419. Alexafar says she's back. Darkness. It is pitch dark and you can't see a thing. Blanford says, what? Where? Alexafar says, Citrinatus deck in the ventilation system. Camilla says, oh, perfect. I'm right by there. Camilla says, I'll take care of this. Sunglasses face. Let's go ahead and transform. You close your eyes and then you open them. And then squeeze pendant. You squeeze the pendant and surrounding darkness becomes somehow transparent. Air duct. The spacious tube curves from aft to starboard. Cool air flows down the tunnel past you. Let's go aft. Air duct. The tube turns from forward to starboard here. Something is buzzing nearby. Oh, it's that mosquito. Let's go starboard. Air duct. The tube runs from port to starboard. There's a hatch in the bottom of the duct here. Open hatch. With the skeleton key, not so fast, a voice warbles as a pseudopod stretches between you and the hatch. You look up to see a brain and two eyeballs suspended in a mass of transparent slime. Chimeas raises a viscid tentacle toward your face. You jump back. Ha ha! Revdella says, is she dead? Chimeas says, not yet, but I'm really close. Blanford says, don't try anything fancy. Just kill her and get it over with. Chimeas says, I'm not trying anything fancy. Calm down. Blanford says, never tell me to calm down. If you ever tell me to calm down again, I will blend you into a fine paste. We will make a smoothie out of you, and we will drink you through a straw. Blanford says, yes. Camille says, okay, sorry. Devil says, never apologize to me. I can try to thank Della, but it did not work because that's not recognized. Let's go starboard. 4. You can hear Camille gurgling through the ducts. Port. Coolant pipe passes vertically through the duct here. Focus. Wait for me, child. Shoot pipe. You fire and a blast of light engulfs the pipe. It bursts open, filling the air with frigid gas and irate hissing. Thanks to Estelle's capelet, though, you barely feel the cold. Let's go ahead and go port. Starboard. Okay, so air duct. The stretch of tube goes port in one direction, starboard in the other. A broken coolant pipe passes vertically through the duct here, spewing frigid gas. Chimeas is here, creeping noisily toward you. Chimeas squelches toward you into the cloud of escaping coolant. Gah! He shrieks. But by the time he realizes his mistake, his body is already solidifying. Archservice Chimeas, what's the problem? She froze me, no big deal. Just come thaw me out when you get a chance. You simpering cretin? Cretin? Well, where's she headed? I'm still tracing her. Hold on. I gotta figure out how to stop them tracking us everywhere, says Snellnax. What? Who are you? Sorry, wrong chat, says Scanlins. Who was that? Hey, I'm gonna figure out how to stop them tracking us everywhere. Can someone come thaw me out, please? Oh, that was actually really easy. Okay, I just lost the trace. Idiot. I will pour you down the toilet and flush you into space. Well, you have to thaw me out first, idiot. Let's go port. Aft. Starboard. Open hatch. Down. You drop yourself through the hatch and land as lightly as you can manage on a very hard floor. Life support cortex. The chamber is crowded with huge machines, and the air is noisy, stuffy, charged with static. Atmosphere generators are notoriously inefficient. These are running on full blast. High overhead is an open hatch in the ducts. The way out is forward. Time is behaving a little bit oddly here. We were down to 14 minutes at one point, but now we're back up. So we appear to be putting a hamper in their plans to some degree. We go forward to life support access. The walkway runs from port to starboard past the security gate leading aft to the life support cortex. Off to the side, the stairway leads direct downward. Which way to the reactor? Port, the scanning lens tells you, so we go port. To corridor. The walkway continues to port and starboard past various unimportant-looking components. Port again. Citrinitas port station. The portward door says Ouroboros access to Rubedo deck. The corridor to starboard was blocked by a fire suppression bulkhead. Someone left a memo open in the console here. Read memo. The top of the memo reads, Cauda Pavonis Defense System, and then the rest of it is encrypted. Scan memo. Decrypting. This is just a list of all the cannons Blandford had installed on every square foot of the hull. If he presses the big button in his cockpit, they all fire at once. Not practical. Okay, we continue port. You step confidently into the Ouroboros. Della says, does Scrooge really think God is a good guy, but also he needs her help? I've been assuming she's one of those ancient alien conspiracy theorists, says Blandford. Deluded people can react very violently when you threaten to dismantle their illusions. Della says, I never understood this theory. If the other side of the golden firmament isn't heaven, then what the heck is over there? Rubedo starboard station. The starboard door says Ouroboros access to Trinitas deck. Corridor continues to port. A progress report glows on a nearby console. Elixifar says, you'd have to ask the ancient aliens. Examine report. The report is dated a few months ago. Operation Talon was a success. The Cymurga is captured and en route to the shipyard. Pastor Gardella has been more than typically merciless in her handling of the captives, says she needs to break their spirits to get the best results. She's the only one who understands the Scipiatio drive, so we take her word for it. That being said, she's also been known to lie for no reason. Continue to the port. Actually, go back starboard. Starboard scan report. This was written by Professor Alxifar. You can tell from the commas, and the more than typically merciless fancy pants syntax. Port. To reactor access. Passages from port and starboard meet in front of a massive blast shield aft. This is the entrance to the reactor. A set of stairs lead deeper into the ship. Let's go aft. First, opening blast shield. First, unlocking the blast shield with the Skeletonic key. You try the Skeletonic key, nothing happens. Apparently, the blast shield isn't locked per se. It might be welded in place. The mosquito passes your ear with a faint whine. There must be a way in, you grumble. Lady, I'm telling you, there completely is not. We'll figure something out. Can we buy some time? We could check out their navigation system. Want to take out their navigation system? Sure. Okay, it's on Nigredo deck, which is... We were there earlier. Well, let's go forward... You can go down, starboard, port, and aft. We go port again to Rubedo Port Station. The portward door says Ouroboros access to Nigredo deck. Corridor continues to starboard. The monitor here has a status report left open on it. Examine report. This report is about a month old. The Cymurga is contained at last. Its variable nature proved a stimulating challenge worthy of my particular expertise. As an undergraduate, I minored in ambiguity. With no sign of any reprisal in the offing, it looks as though our trip to the Golden Firmament will be an uneventful one. When a free moment presented itself, I used the opportunity to confirm a detail that had rankled me. Indeed, one member of the Cymurga does not match with available records. The discrepancy is interesting, but apparently inconsequential. The reactor is in perfect working order. Scan report. This Alxifar guy sure likes to hear himself type. We go port again. You step confidently into the Ouroboros. Are they finally being quiet? You ask the scanning lens. No, they're jabbering away. I'm trying to just relay the interesting parts to you. I know you're busy. Thanks. It's somewhat interesting, you say. Not as unpleasant as I was expecting. Oh, you mean you thought there'd be more cusses? I've been cutting out lots and lots of cusses. Nigredo starboard system. Station. The starboard door says Ouroboros access to Rubedo deck. The corridor continues to port. Oh, thank you. The whole thing has mostly been cusses. We go starboard from here. No, not here. We need to go port. The Ouroboros lurches as if it's about to fall off its track. What was that, you ask? The scanning lens blinks. Stand by. I do not know. Back to Rubedo port station. We go port again. You grab the pole tight, ready for the car to lurch again. But it smoothly follows the rail to the next station. Back to the Negredo starboard station. We go port once more. A broad security gate leads aft. Signage indicates this way to the navigation cortex. The way to port is blocked by a fire suppression bulkhead. A narrow passage leads starboard, and the stairway to the depths of the ship is even narrower. Let's go aft here. We unlock it. Navigation cortex. Sickly light and greenish vapors diffuse from cracks in a gnarled mound on the floor, resolving on the dome ceiling as charts and calculations. The only exit is the passage forward. Examine mound. The carapace of a long-dead cosmic tortoise serves as the Atgear's navigation cortex, releasing necrotic fumes as it slowly decays. You are appalled, but not surprised. Focus. Shoot. Mount. You raise your weapon, you pull the trigger. The blast of light connects with the putrid gas surrounding the shell, and the navigation cortex erupts into flames. Right, flames. Yeah, that'll slow them down a lot. Adelaide Express, 1929. Passenger car. The train lurches onto a bridge and you stagger. People are packed tight together, most of them reading newspapers or trying to sleep. Outside the cramped windows, gum trees and yellow fields hurtle in and out of view. The engine must be somewhere, let's say 4 from here. Luxifar, I'm afraid we've lost primary navigational control. Blandford says, what? How? Luxifar says, Scrooge blew it up. Blandford says, where is she? Della says, looking. Blandford says, I'll just steer us manually since I have to do everything myself, even if I have to use the Oxnav kiosk in the exclusion zone. Luxifar says, that shouldn't be necessary. I can patch control to your console. Blandford says, oh, that's perfect, thank you. Luxifar says, I intended for the auxiliary navigation kiosk to be used only while the ship was under construction. It's far too dangerous to go down there now. Blandford says, okay, I get it. I'm steering from my console. Della says, stop bothering the prince. Luxifar says, I apologize. Camille says, yeah, be nice. Look, again, we're still in the passenger car. Let's go forward. First, opening the door. A red-faced man interpolates himself between you and the door. Sit down, girl. No moving between the cars while the train is in motion. I need to examine the engine, you say, attempting to maneuver around the man without success. It's very important. He scoffs. Important? You young people have no idea what's important. I ought to throw you from the train is what I ought to do. A little boy pulls your sleeve, takes you a step back. I'm awfully sorry. Father's been so quarrelsome lately. Don't know what's gotten into him. You consider this. Did he get something stuck in his eye? A little piece of glass? Maybe? Scan man. You tell the lens to check the man for shard from the mirror of Belial. Yep. Mirror shard detected. Also, this guy's blood pressure is ridiculous. Well, time to focus and shoot man. I am abbreviating the focus description because we've done it so many times in previous games, and it's basically the same text. Shoot man, you fire from the hip, too fast for anyone to notice or object. Brilliant light fills the passenger car. The mirror shard flies from the man's eye, hissing away into nothing. His son rushes to him as he stumbles to the floor. Gracious, he mutters, I don't know what came over me. Very sorry, young lady. Go on, see the engine if you must. None of my business. And they find their seats. We go forward to the post office car. The postal workers are busily sorting mail, paying you minimal attention. When one does look up at you, it's with unsettling trepidation. Doors lead fore and aft to adjacent cars. The mosquito flits at the corner of your vision, never straying far. Examine workers. The more attention you pay to them, the more they focus on their work. Scan workers. All these guys' heart rates are really high, huh? Let's go forward again to the baggage car. Suitcases, packages, bags of mail. It's not as cramped in here as it is in the passenger car. Doors lead fore and aft to adjacent cars. Examine baggage. You can't see that or it's not implemented. Examine suitcases. There's plenty of luggage, but it's stacked so efficiently that you can walk up and down the car without bumping into anything. Scan suitcases. I know we're busy, so I won't tell you to poke around in people's suitcases and get their jewels. Fair enough. Let's go forward. Guard's van. An iron crank protrudes from the floor in the center of this compartment. An angel is sitting on the bench nearby. Doors lead fore and aft to adjacent cars. Examine angel. His presence fills the tiny car with soothing light. The gentle beating of his wings seems to purify the smoky air. His smile is one of perfect kindness, but you could find some condescension in there if you were inclined. Scan Angel. I want to hear what the lens says about this again. Per our agreement, the scanning lens grumbles, I will not be scanning this guy if he even exists. I like that the lens is this dismissive of an actual angel. Talk to Angel. Can I help you? He nods. I and my associates all hope for your victory, Ebenezer Scrooge. Of course, we're not at all concerned about Prince Lansford's experiment succeeding. It makes absolutely no sense. A mortal has no more hope of reaching heaven by throwing a black hole. I'm in a hurry, Zephon. But the consequences of his attempt will be dire indeed if he is not stopped. To that end, I am authorized to grant you this. A crystal ampule a bit smaller than a wren's egg. Red liquid swirls inside. A drop of my own blood, an alkahest to dissolve any substance, to unmake any obstacle. Wield it toward a righteous end. It feels like a coal burning in your hand. Why doesn't it dissolve the vial? Zephon huffs. It must be some sort of miracle. Fair enough. Talk to Angel once more. Anything else? Zephon shakes his head. Fair enough. Examine crank. This is a brake handle for stopping the train. Scan crank. This is supposed to be in the caboose. Are we in the caboose? Oh, for the express, they probably have brake cars at both ends. That makes sense. Let's go forward. Opening the forward door to tender. A very narrow corridor twists around the coal bunker. The locomotive should be through the forward door. Forward once more. To the locomotive. The pipes, gauges, and valves are more than you can take in all at once, but you're only interested in one thing. The conductor stands with his hat in his hands, staring at you in awe. Examine conductor. The soot-caked fellow is on the verge of tears. You wish you had time to talk him down. Scan conductor. Not much to say about this guy, except his job is really cool. Talk to conductor. The man swallows heavily before he speaks. Are you the little girl whose coming was foretold to us by the angel? Heavy sigh. Yes. Would you mind opening the fire hole for me just for a moment? I would be honored, he blubbers, and with his thick glove he pulls the little door open, releasing a blast of heat. Examine fire. You lean down to glance inside the firebox, and immediately you are gone. HHS at gear 4419, docking bay access. There are 2 docking bays to port where your ship is and starboard. The rest of the ship is forward. A wall monitor shows the position of the at gear relative to the golden firmament. Luxafar says, I'm receiving a transmission. It appears that Gengalak has issued another warrant for our arrest. Della says, ha, what now? Luxafar says, identify the asteroid from which I fashioned our all-important black hole. Della says, why does Gengalak care about an asteroid? Luxafar says, well, this asteroid happened to be a memorial to the victims of some interstellar plague. Glenford says, LMAO, which was censored by the lens. Luxafar says, thank you. I had hoped you might find that amusing. Della says, how many charges is that? Luxafar says, I'm sure I can remember. Begin list. 1 for freeing Archdervish Chimeas from incarceration. 18 for the other planets we compelled to assist us in constructing this ship. 8 for incidental treaty violations. 1 for impersonating a member of the clergy. Della interjects, I'm not impersonating anything. Luxafar says, well, now I've lost my concentration. The rest comprises roughly 200 instances of fraud, bribery, coercion, wrongful imprisonment, etc. Gengalak has classified the destruction of the plague memorial as high vandalism. End list. Chimeas asks, how do you keep track of all that stuff? Luxafar says, Archdervis Chimeas. I can't really help it. I suppose attention to detail comes naturally to me. Blanchard says, that's why I invited you to the team. Luxafar says, I'm not sure invited is the right word. Dry humor. We need to go forward from here to Albedo Junction. Let's go back port toward the Trinitas deck. Port again. We're into the Ouroboros. Speeds down the rail. Through the forward window, you can see the firmament, an impossibly huge sphere of gold. Citrinitas starboard station. The starboard door says Ouroboros access to Albedo deck. The corridor continues to port. We go port to life support access. Let's go aft here to the life support cortex. This chamber is crowded with huge machines, and the air is noisy, stuffy, charged with static. Atmosphere generators are notoriously inefficient, and these are running on full blast. High overhead is an open hatch in the ducts. The way out is forward. Examine generators. All the equipment is high-end and brand new, but that doesn't make it fun to be that doesn't make it fun to be around. Scan generators. Pretty nice rig. I can't see anything especially sabotage-worthy, though. Maybe on our way out. Okay, so we'll blast this when we're leaving. Let's go forward. Mosquito's still here. Transform. Talk to Mosquito. You sure you're doing okay? The mosquito nods emphatically. This is the most fun I've had in my life. Transform again. And go port to the corridor. Port once more to the port station towards the Rubedo deck. The corridor to starboard is blocked by a fire suppression bulkhead. Examine bulkhead. You can't see any such thing. That seems incorrect, but, you know, whatever. Examine this memo. Yeah, that's this one. We keep going port. We are in the Roboros. Remember, the scanning lens says the reactor is on Rubedo deck. Isn't that where we're going? Yes. Rubedo starboard station. The starboard door says Roboros access to Citronitas deck. Corridor continues to port. Let's go port. We go examine shield. A huge wall of metal separates you from the reactor. We have the ampule. A tiny vial containing a single drop of angel's blood. Zephon says that it can dissolve anything. I don't think we'll be able to scan it, but I'm going to try. Scan ampule. The scanning lens's reticle glides stubbornly away from the ampule. Apply. Throw ampule at bulkhead? Shield? At shield. You toss the vial at the blast shield. The crystal shatters and flecks of blood spray across the smaragdinum surface. In the next instant, the metal is melting away, vanishing like hoarfrost in sunlight. The way aft is open. We go aft. To power modulator. The component overhead makes your skull vibrate. You want to vomit, but you're too busy. More noisy machines to aft and starboard. The way out is forward. Examine component. You're having trouble looking at it. Your eyes are wiggling. Scan it. Sorry, lady, I can't get a lock on it because your head is vibrating too much. Let's go aft from here to reactor core. Passages from 4, starboard, and port converge around a huge ovoid force field. Inside is the simmer. Examine it. A gigantic bird, majestic even in captivity. Its eyes are bolts of lightning, its beak a blade of adamantine. It beats its fiery wings against the force field, howling in almighty rage. It is also 30 birds, all lying half dead on the floor as their power is siphoned away. Among them is a crow you know. Examine force field. Walls of reddish light rise from floor to ceiling. The Gear's reactor's core's main function is to keep its power source from escaping. Scan the Simurg. Yeah, it's both at the same time. It's one guy and it's a bunch of guys. I don't get it either. Scan the force field. This is interesting. The force field itself is powered by something other than the Simurg. Smart. We go starboard from here. To power rectifier. The air ripples over the rectifier's various heat sinks. It's so hot you can barely breathe. The ways out are 4 and port. Examine rectifier. The rectifier is mostly heat sinks. You couldn't point to any one location where power is being rectified. Scan it. Yes, the Simurg generates alternating current. I assume that's what you're wondering. Let's go forward from here. 2 power limiters. Carbon ceramic towers surround you, thrumming hypnotically. You can see ways out to aft and port. Examine towers. Apparently the Simurg's energy is actually more than the ship can handle. Some of it has to be burned off, or something. Something is buzzing nearby. Oh, it's that mosquito. Scan towers. Can we go somewhere else, please? Well, let's go port from here to the power modulator again, and let's go aft, and let's go port from here to the secondary generator. The secondary generator is considerably quieter than the rest of the machinery around here. A raised platform provides access to the control panel. The way to the main reactor is starboard. Della says, Blanford says, what is it? Della says, Blanford says, what are you humming about? Platform. Della says, I'm going to go check something out. A tiny catwalk accessible via a short ladder. Let's go up. You scramble up the ladder and onto the platform. Examine panel. The panels and a few key components for the generator are exposed here, none of them intelligible to you. Operate. Scan. Let's scan the panel. Yeah, if we broke some of this stuff, we'd really be in business, but we'd need some actual firepower. Focus. You close your eyes, you squeeze your revolver, warmth spreads through your body into the gun. The heat of Jovian lightning, the heat of a furious volcano. You open your eyes, shoot panel. You fire, and purifying light engulfs the exposed components. When it fades, nothing looks any different. I don't see how you're going to do any damage with that pea shooter, observes the ever-helpful scanning lens. Fair enough. We go down, and we go starboard to the reactor core, and we go forward. A winged woman hovers over the blast shield's ruined threshold. Pastor Gardella. Scrooge! She shrieks, raising her cork rifle. The cork rifle hums as Della takes aim. Rifle's droning rises into a piercing whine. See you in heaven, Della crackles. Della fires. Somehow you move fast enough. The burst of corks connects with the side of the modulator, leaving a large scorch mark. Della recovers from the recoil. Della readies her weapon, adding a low drone to the general din of the reactor. The cork rifle hums louder and louder. Let's examine Della. Pastor Gardella's compound eyes reflect the light strangely, and the twitching of her mouth parts don't seem to match her speech. Her wings are a blur, whether she's floating in place or darting around the room. Her wardrobe is completely inappropriate for a pastor. Della fires. You leap out of the way. The volley of quartz slams into the side of the modulator. Della shakes her head. I kind of wish we had one of those, says the scanning lens. Della cocks her rifle. Scan Della. Whatever, I'll just give you what I have on file. Della Intissima Gardella, human cleric. Denomination, post-Christian Presbyterian. Mood, unhinged. Affinity, fire, just like you, neat. Threat level, I Chihuahua. Strength, she's a nut bar. Weaknesses, C, strengths. Della's back on her feet immediately. Let's go port. So let's go starboard. The power limiters. Scanning lens analyzes the situation. Well, let's make her shoot something else, it proposes. Let's go aft. The power rectifier. Let's talk to Della. Please listen to me, Pastor Gardella. The Reverend responds by making a lewd gesture with her human hand, keeping a chitinous claw on her rifle. Thank Della. What? Why? Okay. Della's coming closer. Let's lure her to the secondary generator, the scanning lens suggests. We go starboard from here. Oh, excuse me. We go port from here. We go port again. We go up. We duck behind control. Oh, crap. That worked a little too quickly. So, scrambled up the ladder and onto the platform. You step to the side as Della fires. The blast of pork matter strikes the control panel and the secondary generator explodes. Spanga Kirka, 1715. Tower. Unearthly twilight. The sun is black. The domed tower ahead doesn't resemble the building it's attached to at all. A path leads west, past a jagged standing stone. Examine the tower. The tower, with its Baroque pilasters and festoons, seems entirely unrelated to the simple stone church it's connected to. Scan the tower. The scanning lens refuses to scan the tower because it's religious, I guess. Let's examine the church. An unpretentious, somewhat squat and boxy church. The dome tower appended to the east end wouldn't seem so grandiose if not for the juxtaposition. Examine the sun. A ring of white light surrounds the motionless moon. You avert your eyes. Scan the sun? You're not supposed to look directly at it, dummy. It's okay for me, though. I don't have retinas. Yeah, this is May 3rd, 1715, 93629.5, and it's still 93629.5, and it's still 93629.5, so we can relax. The mosquito is still here. Let's transform. Talk to mosquito. How you doing, mosquito? This place is weird, says the mosquito. You nod. We transform again. Let's look, and let's go west past the... Oh, let's examine that stone. Which do you mean, the stone church or the jagged... What do you mean the jagged? This tall stone is carved with long ribbons of runes. Scan jagged. Runic text translated. It says... excuse me, just a moment. It says... Heilmuthur and Thurthian and Kunbjarn and Halfdan raised this stone in memory of their brother Ulf and their father Bjarn and their brother Blakari. I hope those thorns are displaying okay for you. I am typing in the wrong window again. Let's go west then, to the path. The path runs parallel with the church wall past a chipped runestone. In the corners of your vision, meta-time echoes of yourself plod along the path. Pause to examine the stone. Continue to the west. Examine runestone. One corner of the stone has broken away, but most of the runes are still legible. At the beginning and end of the inscription, the ribbon transforms into an intricately knotted serpent. Scan the rune stone. This one says something about Knutr and Thorkesel and Eystein raised the stone in memory of their father, Bjarn, and Snarri cut it, the stone, I assume. We continue further to the west, to the entrance. A third runestone is hidden away at this end of the church. A wire sundial is mounted over the door to the north. Melix is here, smirking absent-mindedly. Then he recognizes you, and his face falls. Okay, fine. But before you take me in, will you let me explain one thing? You shake your head. I'm not here to arrest you. Now he's confused. Then are you here to ask me for a hint? I'm not looking for you at all, you tell him, and he brightens up. But next time I am, I'll try looking in an eclipse. Back to smirking. Pretty clever, huh? We examine Melix. This Melix has coarser hair than you recall, and it's starting to go gray. He might be twice your age, but he doesn't seem to have changed much. We scan Melix. Melix Nazelson, human mirrormancer. Denomination, Abtelurian Jewish. Mood, fine. Threat level, prodigious. Tell him I say hi. You tell Melix. The scanning lens says hi. Melix points a pair of finger guns at the lens. Right on. Let's talk to him. He leans forward, waiting for you to ask. Who are you hiding from? Misguided people. What about you? I'm not hiding. I ended up here by accident, and I need a way back. Melix glances around. You need fire, and I need... Hey, can you still turn into a mouse? What does he mean, still? Why do you ask? Lyle, my cat, is hiding in this church. Maybe you could encourage him to come out. Come on, throw the guy a bone, the scanning lens whines, and you roll your eyes. From his smile, it seems Melix takes this as a yes. Well, we are still at the entrance. Before we do that, let's examine the rune stone here. The top point of this stone has broken off, and only the beginning and end of the inscription remains. The curved ends are cut to look like a serpent's head and tail. We scan the rune stone. Runic text translated. It says, Anundr had the stones raised, ... someone's father, and Ketilvi in memory of her husband. Probably. I had to infer some parts. Let's examine that sundial. The numbers are hard to read from down here, but the sundial isn't casting any shadow anyway. Can we scan the sundial, or is it considered religious? The scanning lens doesn't reveal anything interesting about the wire sundial. I guess it's kind of ambiguous. Let's go in. To the nave. Painted vines climb the columns and arches. Faded figures cover the vaulted ceiling. Dozens of candles sit in sconces along the walls, none of them lit. The pews face the chancel to the east. The way out is south. We examine the vines. Leafy vines highlight every line, straight or curved. As they reach the vaults, they bloom into flowery borders for the painted scenes. Examine the figures. The light is tricky and the paintings are centuries old, but you can make out enough details to recognize the story. The prophet Elijah, dealing with the prophets of Baal, and then with Ahab and Jezebel, and then handing off his mantle to Elisha. Elisha? Elisha? Anyway, let's also examine... Let's not examine candles yet, but... yeah, none of them are lit. Let's examine candles safely. A couple candles look like they were just blown out, but what does that even mean when time has stopped? It means they might have smoke suspended in the air over them, perhaps? That's my guess. Let's examine those pews. 2 rows of uncomfortable-looking benches. Let's continue to the chancel to the east. Images of saints cover the walls. The vaults here are reserved for the loftiest subjects. The way out is west. A marble archway leads east behind the altar and its looming crucifix. Examine the saints. The saints who stick out from where you're standing is Margaret, standing on a knot-tailed dragon. The butt of her staff is pressed against the worm's distinctly human head. Examine vaults. There are the evangelists in the shapes of the 4 living creatures, and there's God on his throne, adored by angels. Examine archway. Words are carved in the top of the arch, but from this angle, they're upside down. Can we read the archway? Nope. And well, we can't scan it because it's religious. Let's examine that altar. The marble archway in the room to the east frame the image of Christ, diverting much of your attention from what ought to be the church's focal point. Examine the crucifix. Yeah, same thing. Okay. Let's continue east to the tomb. Dozens of escutcheons hang from the pilasters, leaning in like a crowd of anxious faces. The floor is tiled in jagged black and white. The tower's height can't ease the claustrophobia of a mausoleum. A plinth and marble bust stand against one wall. A family tree is painted on another. A grand archway leads west. Let's examine the plinth. A white marble bust on a black marble plinth, flanked by white marble cherubs, over an epitaph in black marble, over a skull and crossed bones in white marble. The epitaph reads, Bondius hoc posuit teneris hoc maror vultus quem vetuit fatum vivere, fama mori natura ingenium for stimata, vita labores publica res plausus, sed dedet astra fides, or something. Let's translate. 2. Bondius placed his ashes, this marble-faced, whom fate forbidden to live, the fame of death, nature, intellect, chance, lined, life, labor, public affairs, applause, but the stars gave faith. Since the lens will not translate this for us. Examine family tree. Each branch on the tree bears a name and short biography. Each name has a tiny coat of arms attached. The painted text is very, very small. In the background are a runestone and an obelisk. The caduceus seems to imply that the family ultimately descends from Hermes, or maybe Odin. Can we go up? The only way to go from here would be west. Let's try to transform. You take a deep breath. You feel very ticklish for a second, and then you've changed. So, why was that lady shooting at you? The mosquito is still here. Oh, excuse me. So, why was that lady shooting at you? Says the mosquito, who's still here. She and her friends are doing something very foolish and dangerous, you tell her. I'm trying to stop them. Something in outer space? I've only been picking up a few details. Yeah, outer space. Deep breath. Where to begin? Talk to mosquito. I tabbed away. Mosquito. A few million years ago, you explain, life started evolving on a certain planet, very far from Earth. Then some sort of megacomet came by and threw off the planet's orbit. It started drifting away from its sun. So it got cold. Right, and if it got too far from the sun, it'd be exposed to a bunch of radiation, too. The developing life forms were doomed. In an ironic twist, I have an actual mosquito currently in my room, buzzing around my monitor, that got in earlier today. I'm going to try to avoid swatting it, but at the same time, I don't want to get bit. So we'll just have to see how things go. It's on my mouse pad. I think that's fine. Talk to mosquito again. But some incredibly advanced creatures had already taken an interest in this planet, and they didn't want to see it snuffed out. They set up a giant support system around it to provide heat and light, and to block the worst of the radiation, they covered it in a layer of gold. Why not just push the planet back into orbit? You'd have to ask the incredibly advanced creatures. But they evolved into energy or something and left their pet planet drifting through interstellar space. When other beings found this huge gold sphere in the middle of nowhere, they came up with a bunch of wild theories. Heavy sigh. Prince Blandford believes the golden firmament is the edge of the universe, and if he breaks through, he'll be able to pass out of mortal space and into heaven. But all he'll do is expose that planet to a bunch of harmful rays. One last time, perhaps? Suddenly, the mosquito is very excited. So you'll have to stop those guys to save all the people on the entire planet. Not people, exactly. I don't think they've had time to evolve beyond squishy little things. Well, sure, like me. You shake your head. Quite a bit smaller than you. Let's go back to the west. Chancel. Images of saints cover the walls. The vaults here are reserved for the loftiest subjects. Planet of squishy things, the mosquito mutters. Too small to see. It's all relative, a solemn voice intones, and a huge orange tabby waddles around a corner. From any given point of view, almost the entire universe is too small to see, too distant to concern oneself with. You take a careful step forward. Hello, Lyle. Melix is looking for you. He deserved to be abandoned momentarily, but I have forgiven him. Carry me to him. And he sits on the floor, tucking his paws under his chest. You transform. You close your eyes, and when you open them, you're a young lady again. We're going to scan Lyle. Oh, the scanning one's put itself into sleep mode. Take Lyle. Lyle meows miserably as you lay hands on him, but he doesn't put up much of a fight. Soon he's wrapped up in your arms, purring in spite of how disappointed he is. You'll take him back to Melix when you're done looking around. Well, we kind of examined everything on our way in, so we'll go back to the nave. And back to the south. To the entrance. A third runestone is hidden away at this end of the church. A wire sundial is mounted over the door to the north. Hey, Lyle, Melix cries. Lyle meows. Can we scan him now? Lyle, cat. Mood inscrutable. Threat level, foofy. Give Lyle to Melix. Here you go. You pass the heavy load to Melix, who holds Lyle's face up to his. Why you gotta run off like that, you little rat bag? He snorts. I guess I'm the one to talk. Anyway, you wanted some fire. He sets Lyle down, freeing his hands to pull a matchbook from his pocket. It was nice to see you, Ebenezer. Say hi to Linus for me. I'm not speaking to Linus, you grunt through clenched teeth. Then say something rude to him for me. Melix strikes a match, and you stare into the flame before he can say anything else. HHS Atgear 4419, crawl space. You're stuck between a couple of bulkheads. You can't move. Della says, oh, crud. Blandford says, what now? Why are we on reserve power? Why is the reactor offline, Della? Della says, I have to go now. My parish needs me. Chimeas asks, are we allowed to leave? Blandford says, Della, you scumbag! Get back here. Della says, I'll be right back. I'll be back right away. I promise, winky face. Bye! Blandford yells, Della, I will find you. As soon as I dethrone God, I will hunt you down. I will turn you inside out. Chimea says, she already left the chat. Blandford says, I will feed you to bees. Keyboard mash. Okay, well, he's going to keep going. We're still in that crawl space. Let's go ahead and transform once more. You take a deep breath. You feel very ticklish for a second, and then you've changed. Now that you can look around properly, you see the crawl space extends fore and starboard. Let's go forward to the dusty corner. It looks like much of the dirt and dust and hair that falls between the floor panels ends up here. The tunnels continue to aft and starboard. A loop of wire sticks out from the pile of dust. Examine the loop. Very thin wire, carefully rolled up and secured with an incredibly delicate knot. Scan loop. Wire analysis. Como filament. Lightweight and strong and expensive. Although I don't know how much you'd get for only 5 feet of it. Let's take the wire. You take the loop of wire. We came forward. Let's go starboard from here. To the monument. 4 tiny construction helmets hang on 4 posts welded into the floor. Words in an unfamiliar script are carved into the wall. Examine the words. You wouldn't even be able to see the letters if you weren't so small, but you can't read them. We scan this. Hylic text translated. It says, in memory of those gnomes of Hyle who lost their lives in the construction of His Highness's stupid ship Atgear. And then there's a bunch of names. You convey this information to the mosquito. Well, she says, I guess I'm not surprised. Examine the helmets. The helmets are somewhat larger than mouse-sized. Each is mounted as if leaning solemnly downward. We came from starboard, so let's go aft from here to the intersection. Your human form couldn't even crawl through here, but for a mouse it's quite spacious, if not exactly comfortable. The tunnels go on to fore, starboard, and port. A nasty-looking bent screw leans against the aft wall. Let's examine that screw. Some prodigious force has bent the screw almost into a fishhook. Scan the screw. I have no idea what could bend a futuristic, super-strong screw like that, but I can see why you'd abandon it afterwards. Well, we're not going to be that kind of person. We're going to take that screw. We take the bent screw. Let's go further starboard from here to the missing panel. There should be more floor to starboard, but a panel has fallen away. Now there's just a pit. On the far side is a bunch of cables. The crawl space continues to fore and port. Can we go forward from here? To the dead end. This tunnel is oddly free of dust or other debris. It must have slowly been sucked down the aft passage. An odd sort of tool rests here. We examine the tool. An odd contraption. It has every appearance of being spring-loaded, except there's no place for a spring. Oh, huh, says the scanning lens. Let's take that prompt and scan the tool. The scanning lens casts its reticle this way and that. I don't see any tools around here, it says. That's because I typed an extra S. Scan tool. Tool analysis. Mini construction implement used by the gnomes of Heil. Basically a crossbow / nail gun, so they call it a nail bow. You load the nail in there, and then you pull the trigger. It's set up to ratchet itself automatically because the gnomes of Heil have tiny arms. Let's take the nail bow. You take the nail bow. Nothing else here. Let's go back aft. Let's see. We have a nail bow, a bent screw, and a loop of wire. How might we use that to deal with this missing panel, I wonder? Let's examine the cables first. Thick cables secure the panels on the other side and the far side. The cables connecting the panel in between must not have been strong enough. Peering down over the edge, you can see a black hole. Scan cables. Good grief, lady. Why couldn't you warp us in somewhere more convenient? I bet it's because you were thinking about Linus. Think about Linus. Think? You take a moment to consider the situation. Talk to lens. Don't worry about me, the scanning lens tells you. I can take care of myself, as long as I don't fall off your capable face. Let's tie wire to screw. With some guidance from the scanning lens, you tie one end of the wire securely around the screw. Load screw in nail bow. You place the bent screw in the nail bow, and the contraption winds itself back. Shoot nail bow at cable. You pull the trigger, and the screw is launched across the pit. Immediately, it gets tangled in the cables on the far side. You grab the other end of the wire and tie it around the cables on this side. Now the gap is bridged by a single, incredibly thin wire. Scurry across wire. Yeah, I didn't think that would be a verb that you recognize, but I wanted to try it. Cross wire. You grab the wire, find your balance, take a few cautious steps over the pit. It turns out this is not as scary as you were expecting. You dash along the wire and hop safely to the other side. Shaft. There's plenty of space for a human to stand in here. Fair enough. Let's have a human stand here and transform. You close your eyes, and when you open them, you're a young lady again. The walls look solid except for the floor panel. You see nothing special about the loose panel. You kick down the panel. Now there's a way out. Heck yeah. Out. You step through the hole in the wall. Nigredo, starboard station. The starboard door says Ouroboros access to Rubedo deck. The corridor continues to port. There's also a big hole in the aft wall. We're going to go starboard because we want to get back to the Rubedo deck. You step confidently into the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros car zips along. Should be pretty easy, says the scanning lens. We got plenty of time. Here comes the next station. You raise your... Whoa. Rubedo Port Station. The portward door says Ouroboros access to Nigredo deck. The corridor continues to starboard. The monitor here has a status report left open on it. The mosquito flits at the corner of your vision, never straying far. Professor Alxafar is here. You raise your revolver, and he sneers. Stop bluffing, girl. We both know you're not foolish enough to harm a unicorn. You haven't been acting much like a unicorn, Professor. He chuckles. Thanks to this, he says, pointing at a lump in his neck. A Belcheboo cyst. Prince Blandford had it implanted to suppress my innate morality. Then you know he's manipulating you. Why don't you resist him? He lays a massive hand on your shoulder, holding you in place. Why should I want to resist? He let me build this ship, the greatest feat of engineering in millennia. Finally, technology. My technology will throw open the gates of paradise. It won't do that, Professor. His eyes narrow condescendingly. As soon as Prince Blandford calms down, he and I will recontain the Simurgh. The mission will continue, despite your attempts at delay. Then in the meantime, why aren't you killing me? Because I... Alxifar's head and shoulders spasm. His huge eyes roll back in his head. Then he recovers. I'm reserving that privilege for His Highness. We examine Alxifar. Professor Alxifar is a majestic gray unicorn, corrupted to walk on his hind legs, to wear a human's hands. The tip of his pearly horn almost scrapes the ceiling. Can we scan him? Professor Alxifar, unicorn engineer, denomination Sealy, mood composed, affinity rainbow, threat level. Please don't kill him, lady. We'd be in so much trouble. Let me get a better look at that cyst. Scan the cyst. You try to give the lens a good angle on the cyst. Okay, the Space Pirate databases in 4419 have some very scanty data about these things. Some kind of bio-interface soul-affecting brain pod. If you believe souls even exist, sorry. You want to ask if it's anything like a mirror shard, but you can't let Alxifar know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking, the lens says. As far as I can tell, it's kind of like a mirror shard. Think about rainbows. Think. You take a moment to consider the situation. Talk to Alxifar. What is a Belcheboo cyst exactly? A seed of hell, Alxifar tells you. That's how it was explained to me, at least. My degree is in engineering. Focus. Let's just try and shoot the cyst. Don't be stupid, Alxifar grunts, but you fire before he can stop you. Radiance fills the corridor. Alxifar screams. The shadow of the cyst withers like a dead leech and disintegrates. As the light disperses, the professor staggers. His hands turn back into hooves. With a wail of anguish, he falls to all fours. What have I done? What have I become? Miss Scrooge! Glittering tears fall from his opalescent eyes. I'm a monster! You're not a monster anymore, Professor. There's still time to stop this. Yes. You take care of the Simurgh. I'll disconnect Blandford's navigational controls. Then I'll... A sob cuts him off. First things first, you tell him. He nods and gallops into the Ouroboros. We were in Rubedo Port Station. Let's go starboard from here. And now we go aft. The power modulator. The sickening thrum is gone, replaced by the thumping and crackling of half-operational machinery. The rest of the reactor is aft and starboard. The way out is 4. A great number of feeble-looking birds are assembled here. 26, 27, 28. Freeman waves a feather from one bird to the next, and I make 29. We're still missing one. He turns to face you. Well done, by the way. We're not done yet, you tell him. Stay here. I'll find the last one. Examine Freeman. Freeman has recovered faster than any of the others. He's used to this sort of thing. We scan Freeman. Freeman, tame crow, threat level easy, abilities flight, spooky bird secrets, affinity death. Lady's note, be nice to Freeman or I'll have you reprogrammed. Hey, how long do we have to keep that there? I'm nice. Nice to see an evolution in that particular scanning result. Let's go aft from here. To the reactor core. Passages from fore and starboard cross at a circular containment zone. The force field is gone. Fire suppression bulkhead bars the port passage. Examine the bulkhead. Open bulkhead with our key. Skeletonic key unlocks the fire suppression bulkhead easily. Then the fire suppression bulkhead detects a fire on the other side and immediately locks itself again. Dang, okay. Let's go starboard to the power rectifier. The air isn't rippling anymore, but it's still hot in here. The ways out are fore and port. The hoopoe lies here, wings splayed over the floor. Examine the hoopoe. His crest is bent. His beak hangs open. He's barely breathing. Scan the hoopoe. He'll be fine if we get him back to the others fast. Take the hoopoe. You carefully take the little bird up in your arms. Forward to the power limiters. The carbon ceramic towers are silent. You can see ways out to the aft and port. I don't remember the way to do this gracefully. Give hoopoe to Freeman, perhaps? You carefully set the hoopoe down among his fellow birds. Immediately a change comes over him. His crest rises. He gets to his feet. He opens his beak. That which you seek is here. The 30 birds speak with one vast voice. I am the king of birds. It stands before you, its fiery wings still furled. We are the Simurgh, it says. Now let us fly. Wait, you gasp, raising your hand too late. The Simurgh spreads its wings in a wave of brilliant flame. Blandford, why did we stop accelerating? Alexafar says, Prince Blandford, I've disabled your navigational control. Blandford asks, what? Chimea says, what? Alexafar says, I'm putting a stop to this heinous experiment of yours. Completely serious. Blandford says, Scrooge! Alexafar says, yes, she extracted the cyst, and now it is my duty to undo as much of the evil I've committed as I can. Blandford says, Alexafar, listen to me. Without the cyst, are you as wise and benevolent and as pure as a unicorn is supposed to be? Alexafar says, it appears so. Blandford says, I see. Cerro Gordo County, 2008. Corn. Thunder crashes and your chest shakes. The tall stalks are tangled in the clawing wind, lashed by sheets of ruthless rain. East and west between fields runs a track of thick mud, barely visible in the darkness. Oh boy. We are in 2008. Let's go check out these corn. The walls of stalks wave their leaves wildly, warning you away. The mosquito is still here. Let's talk to Mosquito. Don't worry about me, says the mosquito. I've gotten through worse. You close your eyes, and when you open them, you're a young lady again. Scan stalks. I am detecting that we are in the American Midwest. Again. Let's go west. To the corn. The path sinks into a torrent of black rainwater, rushing from one field to the next. On either side, the mud continues east and west. We go further west. You trudge across the creek, against the current tugging at your ankles. Memorial. The path from the east stops here, where silhouettes of a guitar and 3 records hang over the mud. Examine Memorial. Rain pours over the smooth steel surfaces. Letters are cut into the metal. It's too dark to read. A cigarette lighter hangs on a chain from the guitar's neck. Scan Memorial. I got a very bad feeling about this. Can we light the lighter? You're not holding the lighter. Oh boy. Well, here we go. Take lighter. You lift the lighter from the neck of the guitar. The ground shakes and your spine twinges. Light lighter. You flick the lighter. There's a spark, but the rain stifles it in an instant. Let's examine the guitar. No. Okay. Let's go back to the east, to the corn. Chimea says, hey, we're moving again. Fast, wow. How'd you do that? Blandford says, I found another power source. Chimea says, nice. So where's the professor? The professor is the power source. Oh! Yeah. We go further east to corn. The tall stalks are tangled in the clawing wind, lashed by sheets of ruthless rain. East and west between fields runs a track of thick mud, barely visible in the darkness. The thunder calls down to you. Defiler! No apologizing here. Okay, well, we're going to go back, continue for the east. Corn. The space between corn and fields narrows. The mud doesn't get any thinner. The trail runs east and west. The storm winds its black fingers through your hair, around your neck. You will be punished. You call up to the sky. I only need... But the thunder swallows your voice. Pray. You mutter a silent prayer. It'd be nice for Poseidon to intercede on our behalf, but I don't think we're going to get that lucky. Let's go east to Glasses. The trail emerges from the cornfields and meets a gravel road running north and south. A giant pair of wayfarers marks the spot. The drainage ditches are overflowing. A figure is following you, stalking across the clouds. There is no excuse. If there were any other way, it's hopeless. We examine the figure. Is that his face scowling at you from the clouds, or is it only his shadow? Scan the figure. Yeah, I don't see anything, lady. Examine wayfarers. Examine glass. Oh, I didn't spell that right. Glasses. Horn-rimmed glasses, 4 feet wide, cut from steel, painted black, and mounted on 2 poles. No lenses in the frames. Scan glasses. Yeah, I guess this is as good as mine, lady. Your guess is as good as mine. Okay. Let's go south to the road. A grain silo sticks out of the darkness to the south. Those glasses are back to the north. The voice in the storm is closing in. There is no forgiveness. You need to get out of here. Let's get into that silo, I guess. Silo. The silo is dented and decaying, but the wind and rain can't knock it down. Those glasses are up the road to the north. The specter is on top of you. You can feel his breath, his rage. There is no escape. Enter silo. The only way in would be through that tiny rusty hole. Transform. You take a deep breath, you feel very ticklish for a second, and then you've changed. In. You slip through the hole. Darkness. It is pitch dark, and you can't see a thing. Wind and rain pound on the walls. Transform. And squeeze pendant. Inside the silo. The floor is only a little damp, except for a small puddle near the hole through which you entered. It would be very comfortable, if not for the rain thrashing against the walls. Examine the lighter. A plastic bic with a peace sign design. The chain probably cost twice as much as the lighter. Lighter. You flick the lighter. A tiny spark flickers and dies. Come on, you mutter, trying to shake the water out. I tried to do it again. Unfortunately, the again and G commands had to be disabled to make this game's amazing gimmick work, but you can press the up arrow key to pull up the previous commands. Whoop, up, lighter. You flick it again. Again, a flame appears and disappears. You will be punished! Not now! You flick the switch desperately. At last, a tiny tongue of flame stands before your eyes. There is no escape. But there is for Ebenezabeth. Blandford. Alexafar's meddling has forced me to use the auxiliary navigation kiosk. The effects of the exclusion zone may interfere with communications. Camille says, oh, okay. HHS Atgear 4419 Albedo Junction. A creased poster hangs on the wall. Freeman is here. Are we good? Not quite. Blandford is steering from the exclusion zone. Oh, no. Well, Freeman says, let's go take care of that. Oh, nice to meet you. He's talking to the mosquito. The mosquito flits at the corner of your vision, never straying far. Transform. Talk to mosquito. You're on kind of a time limit here. You look at the mosquito very soberly. If you turn back now, you can probably make it to my ship. She shakes her head. I'm sticking with you, Ebenezabeth. Turning back is not an option. Let's go down to the stairway. A faint red light pulses fitfully. Striped tape marks off a seemingly arbitrary position of the stairway. The nearby sign reads, Relativistic Exclusion Zone, keep out. No such luck. He's already down there, so we are going down as well. A message appears in the scanning lens. Okay, fine. You step down across the striped tape. Exclusion Zone. The roaring of air generators fills your ears. Gravity drags beads of condensation down the walls. It's pulling you down the stairs. We go down to the catwalk. The immense sphere of the golden firmament hangs outside the force field, floating closer and closer. Freeman stands at your side, awaiting your guidance. Some distance below the catwalk, directly beneath you, is a tiny black hole. Beyond that, on an opposing catwalk, Prince Blandford operates the auxiliary navigation kiosk. Examine Blandford. Blandford is in full armor, cape billowing in the turbulent atmosphere, yellow eyes burning under his visor. He's steering the ship with one hand, his other gauntlet clutching the narrow railing. Every movement, every clenched muscle conveys his rage and determination, even though from your perspective he is mostly upside down. Somehow you have to get to his side of the black hole. Scan Blandford. Koresh Mandakinya Blandford, Human Prince, denomination declined estate, mood intense, affinity metal, threat level prodigious, analyzing enemy defense system. The armor is mostly for show by 45th century standards, but your 19th century caveman gun isn't going to do much to it at this range. Transform. You take a deep breath, you feel very ticklish for a second, and then you've changed. Talk to Freeman. Are you sure you're okay? You ask. Freeman stretches his wings. I was just in the Cyberg. I feel like I could fly through a brick wall. How about around a black hole? He scoffed. I expect it's just like flying around a planet, he says. You jump a few inches in the air, which feels like a considerable height. Climb on Freeman. Freeman leans down so you can scurry onto his back. Hold tight, he tells you. What exactly are we doing? Asks the mosquito. Something dumb, says the scanning lens. We're flying over there, you tell her. She clings tight to your fur. You cling tight to Freeman. Freeman flaps noisily and takes off. Above the black hole, Freeman is beating his wings as hard as he can, trying not to lose any altitude. You're about 90 degrees away from Blandford. Get ready, Freeman shouts. Can you get any closer? You ask Freeman. Crud, he says, this is as high as I can get. Okay, so you soar under the catwalk where you stood. It's too high for Freeman to land, too high for you to risk jumping. What now, you mutter? Swinging back toward Blandford. Let me try, the mosquito says. You give me a boost, mosquito. Boost, mosquito. Just toss me up there next time around. Throw, mosquito. Oh. Load, mosquito in... nail bow. Fortunately, once you get the nail bow into position, mosquito doesn't need much help. Okay. There's a lot going on here. We're going to wait and get all of this. Okay. Okay, so let's recap. What we did, Freeman is beating his wings as hard as he can, trying not to lose any altitude. You're about 90 degrees from Blandford. Get ready, Freeman shouts. Now you can see him right side up, clinging madly to the railing as he steers the ship, still too far to reach. Can you get any closer? You ask Freeman. Freeman's orbit is taking you away from Blandford now. Crud, he says. This is as high as I can get. You soar under the catwalk where you took off. It's too high for Freeman to land, too high for you to risk jumping. What now? You mutter, swinging back toward Blandford. Let me try, the mosquito says. Can you get up there? You're back on Blandford's side. He doesn't notice you. He doesn't look up from the navigation kiosk. If you give me a boost, the mosquito tells you. I tried to boost the mosquito. That's not a verb I recognize. Now you're flying away from Blandford. Just toss me up there, next time around. Back on the far side from Blandford, you might be losing altitude. I don't think she can throw you very far with those tiny arms, Freeman says. No offense. You're coming back toward Blandford. Oh, I know what to do. The scanning lens has an idea, you tell the others as you come close to Blandford. The crossbow thingy. The gnome nail bow. Deep breath. Mosquito, do you want to try getting shot out of this crossbow? Sure. Load mosquito and nail bow. Fortunately, once you get the nail bow into position, the mosquito doesn't need much help loading herself into the ammunition rail. Okay, now let me calculate the correct time to fire. You're back on the far side of the black hole from Blandford. Now, shoot. You aim straight forward, pull the trigger, and the mosquito is shot out into a higher orbit. You swing toward Blandford, the mosquito whizzing above you. You can just barely see the mosquito landing on his mask. As you recede from Blandford, you hear a frustrated grunt. The grunt rises into a howl of rage. Blandford tears off his mask, thrashes his head, trying to shake something out of his ear. He lets go of the railing, swats furiously at his own face. He smacks himself hard, staggers. A smear of blood runs down his cheek. He tumbles backward over the railing. Prince Blandford flails through empty air, reaching at nothing. His gauntlet is stained with blood and dark smudges. You close your eyes. Come on, Freeman squawks, shocking you to awareness. Let's get out of here. You nod and wake up. With Ebenezabeth's assistance, agents of the Galactic Police Force Gend Galak boarded the Atgear to extricate its passengers and navigate the ship safely away from the Golden Firmament. Professor Alcazar and the Archdervish Chimeus were arrested on various charges relating to their roles in Prince Blandford's interstellar reign of terror. To the rescuer's surprise, the Simurgh had already managed to escape the Atgear in Ebenezabeth's borrowed starship. After wresting control of the Quartal Star from the scanning lens, the Simurgh returned the ship to its owner, the notorious bounty hunter Sunao Jacobson. Gend-Galak agents tracked Pastor Della Gardella's ship to a nearby nebula. After she was apprehended, she was made to stand trial along with Professor Alcazar and Archdervish Chimeus. In a moment, the results of that trial. Some contend that, from Prince Blandford's perspective, time slowed down to an infinite degree in the vicinity of the black hole, and he will never experience actually entering it. Others say that Blandford must certainly have lost consciousness around the time spaghettification set in. Melix Kasnelson remains at large. On February 3rd, 1959, American rock and roll musicians Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper J.P. Richardson were killed in a plane crash near Clear Lake, Iowa, together with pilot Roger Peterson. Peterson's spirit will wreak grisly vengeance on any who dare to desecrate the musician's solemn memorial. At the trial of Prince Blandford's accomplices, Ebenezer Scrooge recommended leniency for Professor Alxafar, testifying that his collusion in Blandford's crimes was motivated not by malice or greed, but by a Belzebub cyst inserted into his neck. In his own testimony, Professor Alxafar rejected any special treatment, accepting full responsibility for his deeds. Professor Alxafar, Archdervis Chimeus, and Pastor Gardella were found guilty of 19 counts of planetary conquest and 263 lesser charges. Chimeus and Gardella were both sentenced to lifetime rehabilitation in a maximum security pocket dimension. In light of his contrition in Scrooge's testimony, Alxafar was instead serviced to 300 years house arrest, with provisions to allow for his return to teaching after 100 years. After the trial, Ebenezer Scrooge, the Scanning Lens, and Freeman the Crow returned to 19th century London to enjoy a well-earned, if brief, repose. The story you have just played is true. The names have not been changed. The End. Dedicated to the memory of A Mosquito, 1988 to 4419. Would you like to restart, restore a save game, quit, or undo the last command? We will call that good for today. Thank you so much for joining me as we played through The Little Match Girl Approaches the Golden Firmament. When next week meet, we have, I think, another big game. Let's see. The Little Match Girl 5, The Hunter's Vow, the last of the games currently available in the Little Match Girl series, and one that, while I have not played in its entirety. This one will almost certainly require multiple sessions, so look forward to the first of those next weekend. Thank you for watching. I'm Jay Essen.